This is the Spokane Soccer Show, and I am your women's soccer superstan, Benji Wade. On today's show, the Super League Soccer Show takeover rolls on. I am joined again by my friend and professional soccer player, Abby Carchio. Abby and I are introducing you to the first 22 players signed by Zephyr FC, and you are listening to part 2, Forwards and Goalkeepers. 6 forwards, 2 keepers. That's it. That's the intro. Once again, I want to give a special shout out to my friend Deanna Hanley, President and CEO of Spokane City Credit Union, for providing additional support to the Spokane Soccer Show. We couldn't have done these 2 special episodes without the support of Spokane City Credit Union. So thank you, Deanna, and thank you, Spokane City Credit Union. And now, on with the show. Welcome back. The Super League Soccer Show takeover of the Spokane Soccer Show. We covered in part 1. Let's see here. How many players did we do? We did 14, I think. Oh my goodness. And that was 8 midfielders, 6 defenders. We got through it. We have 8 players left. We have 6 forwards and 2 goalkeepers. Are you ready, Abby, to jump back in to talking about the 2024 Spokane Zephyr FC first ever roster that's been put together? There's 22 players in total. We have 8 left. Are we ready to do this?
I am so honored and I am so ready for this.
All right, let's do this. We're going to talk about forwards. I'm going to start with Jenny Vetter, a 24-year-old, 5'4" center forward. Jenny grew up in Mankato, Minnesota. I think I got that pronunciation correct. Jenny was a multi-sport athlete at Mankato East High School. She played soccer. She did track and field. She played basketball. Always loved that. She got recruited in her home state to play for Minnesota State, which is a Division II soccer program. In case you missed it, Minnesota Governor Tim Walz also went to Minnesota State. He taught at Mankato West High School. Jenny went to Mankato East High School. Just thought that was kind of an interesting synchronicity thing from current events. Vice presidential hopeful, I think, is how you'd label Tim Walz right now. I dig Tim Walz. Just want to shout him out. 93 appearances, 57 goals, 18 assists, and 6,000 minutes. She was the NSIC, which is the Northern Sun Intercollegiate Conference, 3-time, unsurprisingly, Offensive Player of the Year and 3-time NSIC First Team Player. She did get a preseason run out with the Houston Dash, but that's where I'm going to stop. Professional experience. What did you learn about Jenny Vetter, Abby?
Yes, super impressive player coming out of college. And then she goes on to do the same thing professionally. She went over to Portugal in the first division to play for Racing Power FC. She scored 14 goals and was getting on average 60 to 90 minutes each game. I actually have a mutual teammate with Jenny, so I do have a little bit of insight on who she is as a player.
Wow, let's go. Tell me. What do you know, Abby? Let's go.
First thing, very, very... 2 varies fast,
okay,
which a lot of these players are. But what sets her apart is how clinical of a finisher she is. So the team that she was playing on in Portugal, they weren't the strongest in the league. But I will say my mutual teammate revealed that they did not have a lot of shots on goal, not a lot of chances. But Jenny was still able to finish 14 of those goals. So that just goes to show on paper, excellent finisher, very clinical. Again, super hard worker. And, our mutual teammate says perhaps she's been overlooked in the past. So I'm excited that Zephyr didn't pass her over.
Super wild. Racing Power FC, her club, was recently, I think it's a new club. They've only been around since 2020. Were promoted from the 2nd division in Portugal to the top flight, which is when Jenny joined them.
Yep.
And they ended up finishing in 3rd. So they might have been a very defensive side that just didn't score many goals and depended on draws, because I think they did finish, even though it was 3rd, it was kind of a distant 3rd thing. But look, real talk, the women's top flight in Portugal, those top 2 teams go and play in the Champions League. So it is a legitimate league, and she had a lot of success there. What did you say it was? 14 goals? I think it was in 29 appearances. Is that what you have?
Yeah.
It's a pretty damn good strike rate. My goodness. Good return.
And it was also a project team. So like you said, they just got promoted, and that's because they were, this project that someone took on and they tried to get promoted as quickly as possible. And so for them to have that performance is excellent. But I think Jenny was a massive part of where they finished in the table.
This is one of those things. She's going to be a really fascinating player to talk about because of the fact that you said she was kind of overlooked. She played Division II soccer, so some people probably look down on that. But then she goes and plays top flight soccer in Portugal and kills it. I saw some video of her play a little bit of Portugal. Did you see her play from Portugal and her play from Minnesota State, or neither or both? What did you see from Jenny?
No, honestly, everything that I have is anecdotal. I
Okay.
actually have two teammates that have played with her, but one that I know very well. And so I'm actually excited to see her in the flesh and see if she lives up to the words that I know she will for my friends.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, the stuff that I saw is there were some examples like she can score from any angle. She's like a total poacher, top of the box. She'll punish mistakes. I even saw at one point in the Portugal goals that I saw, like a little cheeky back heel finish from a ball that was skimmed across the goal, the face of the goal. Really likes to make off the shoulder runs as a right winger. I think you had a note about her wanting to play on the wing, which seems very clearly her favored role, although she will probably get some opportunities as a 9 or minimally a second striker. Very Ollie Watkins-esque is a note that I took as far as like how she likes to finish. She'll take those tough angles where she'll cross her body with her right leg. The first highlight on her college film is this like lung busting kind of a track and field kid run that you'd expect from somebody who can really run. Receives the ball from a midfielder, drops her shoulder, sprints onto it, takes one touch, bam, left foot upper 90. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is like the start of her college film. Very, very athletic player. So that's one of the things that made me think, maybe Division II doesn't really matter. I don't really, the only other note that I have that I'm like, we'll see how this works out. Some of the best strikers ever, Abby, and forwards, they don't have to be great dribblers. She definitely does not strike me as a very technical dribbler. She uses her pace. Like her move is basically, I'm gonna kick the ball a few feet over here, and I'm going to run onto it faster than you can defend it. I mean, just really crude, straightforward, and at the same time, very effective, right? Yeah, it'd be tempting to look at a Division II player and say flat track bully, but she did it in Portugal. That's right. So and that's a league that's got Benfica and Sporting. So yeah, we'll see. It'll be really, really interesting. Position and role. We're probably on the same page here. Like where do you see Jenny Vetter slotting in with Spokane Zephyr?
I might actually deviate from what you have in mind. I do
Okay.
think the logical answer is probably on the wing, but I really do see her as a 9. She just has so much pace, and again, she's a clinical finisher. It depends if they invert their wingers, which I think that they will do. Then maybe she hits that high pocket as a winger and can still finish. But again, I'm a coach that likes to put my finishers in the 6-yard box. So I would love to see her at center forward, but probably we'll see her at wing.
It's a super good point. Maybe she's just one of those players that might want to start on the wing or the corners of the box, but she's going to make her way toward the goal eventually.
Right.
Next up, Jodi Ülkekul, 27-year-old, 5'3" winger. Jodi grew up in Sammamish, Washington. Her name is Turkish. She played her ECNL club soccer for Crossfire Premier. You've probably heard that name come up. There's a bunch of kids in the Spokane market that play for that team, even though it's on the west side. She was recruited to play for Gonzaga. This is a big deal. She's another Gonzaga product. Made 74 appearances for Gonzaga. Had 7 goals and 8 assists and 5,500 minutes for them. And I believe played mostly as a defender. I think you even had it down as she was an outside back, and that's the impression that I have as well. So with that, what did you learn, Abby, about Jodi Ülkekul?
I learned a great deal. So from 2019 to 2021, she went over to Italy and played in the second division there, Serie B, for Roma CF, before going on to Spain for 1 year with Castiglione. She came back home 2022, played as a national team replacement contract player for the Reign, and she actually earned a roster spot, which is great. Unfortunately, it looks like she had a huge gap in playing from 2023 to now, I guess, about 17 months. That's so brutal. And then it would appear that something didn't go exactly right in terms of the timeline for the recovery. But what counts now is that she's back, she's fit, and she's ready to go for another professional season.
Let's go. Not a lot of video, not a lot of film on you, Jodi. Sorry. And also, you apparently have switched positions because you're now listed as a forward. So presumably, she's going to try to play as a winger. I think she played as a left back for Gonzaga. I saw one video. She scored a long range bomb against Grand Canyon like 5 years ago. Found an interview that she did for the school like 8 years ago. And only other thing I'll say about Jodi, shout out, big fan of the Spokane Soccer Show. She has followed the Spokane Soccer Show Instagram page. I remember like since the very first days of its existence, probably because I was talking so much about the Gonzaga women's program. But yeah, so I think she was signed as a winger for Seattle Reign, and I presume that's how she'll be used for Zephyr FC. Do you have the same perspective?
Considering there's not a ton out there on her, I'll only make an assumption. Obviously, playing an outside back position, you are comfortable playing with a line either to your left or your right. So that's also the case for a winger. That's my only thing to go off of. Curious if she does pop into the middle, but really question marks on this one, and excited to see what she does.
Okay, so that's Jodi. Next up, Riley Tanner, 24-year-old, 5'7" forward. Riley Madison Tanner Rintala to her friends. She grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan. The reason for that long name you just heard is she is a Panamanian dual citizen. She has had already in her young career 8 caps for Panama, including 3 goals. She played at the World Cup for Panama's first ever appearance and scored a goal against Papua New Guinea in their Interconfederation playoffs to help secure Panama's spot in the 2023 World Cup. More on that in a moment. She had some ECNL club experience for, this is going to be the second player that you'll have heard this about, the Michigan Hawks, same as Sarah Clark. They were teammates for the 2017 national title-winning team, and she was named to the national team top 11 in that tournament. She also played a couple years for Midwest United in the W League and went to 2 colleges. No, is she the player who went to 2 colleges? Yeah, she is. She went to University of South Carolina and University of Alabama, made 100 appearances, scored 15 goals, had 14 assists, was named second team All SEC as a senior. That's Riley Tanner's amateur experience. There's a lot there. What do you know about Riley as a professional thus far, Abby, and your impressions of her as a player?
I will say I do love an attacker who has a balance of assists to goals. Girl after my own heart.
Yeah, I was going to say, sounds very familiar.
Love
Abby
that.
Carchio.
Love that. Professional experience. She was drafted in 2023 by the Spirit, and she appeared in 2 Challenge Cup games. Like you said, a lot of her minutes professionally would be allotted to her national team experience with Panama. Amazing opportunity to play in 3 World Cup games. Aside from that, not too much else on the professional side of things, but I do think she is going to be a key piece to this Zephyr squad.
Not a lot of film, which is kind of a bummer because it's a pretty cool profile, her player or her pedigree as a player. So I did find though the goal that she scored in the 63rd minute, I think, off the bench for Panama. Excellent footwork. She looked quick. She scorched 3 defenders and finished very neatly with her left foot. So I think she might be a lefty. Look, for Panama, it looked like she was either playing a 10 role or maybe an inverted winger. The fact that she's listed for Zephyr as a forward makes me think that I might have been right, that she was just inverting on that play. But yeah, what do you suspect? I mean, I realize we're just going off of very little information here, but
yeah, and from that Panama highlight, I think that's the space I would see a false 9 jumping into. So I could see her in that role. She's pacey. She likes to receive the ball in the pocket or even in behind. I think dribbling is one of her strong suits. So can she drop into the pocket, turn, dribble at the back line, and create spaces for the wingers? That's a huge question mark for me. But if she can do that successfully, why not have her in the middle of the park?
You know, we've had so many of these players now. I'm losing count of them. The dual citizens that have had some international experiences: Sophie Braun, Sydney Cummings, Riley Tanner. Like, what do you suspect, Abby, the role that plays in the development of these players and what they bring to the table from that experience?
Yeah, we could go down a rabbit hole with this, Benji, because national team setups is really dependent on the country that you're playing for. Most, I would say, unless you are in the top 15 teams ranked by FIFA, you are in an environment that is not really great for development or professionalism. And so I do think that there's a lot of problem solving that has to go into being one of the players on these national teams. I can't say for sure if that is the case for Panama, but I don't know on the developmental side how beneficial it is, but I do think it allows you to put your nose to the grindstone and get things done with little resources.
Yeah, in those circumstances where it might not be the best setup or there might not be a lot of infrastructure and investment and resource, it's just experiential. You get the cultural stuff, you get the vibes, and often probably some adversity, So Kaylor Hodges, friend of the podcast, host of the USL show. I don't know if you know who that is, Abby, but Kaylor's a great dude, very much follows every ounce of soccer, men and women's game in the U.S. and elsewhere, but mostly in the U.S. And he's from Alabama, so he obviously knows Riley from her time playing for University of Alabama. And he had this to say. He said, Riley is easily one of the most standout humans I've ever met. You guys have got an absolutely amazing one. She's awesome. I'm honestly floored that she isn't starting somewhere in the NWSL. She's an honest-to-goodness superstar. Kaylor DM'd that to me the moment that announcement was made. So,
wow, those are some beautiful words. If that was written about me, I think I would just pack in my career right there.
Hey, Kaylor's a gunslinger. He will let those takes fly. And they're usually very, very nice because he's a very nice gentleman. Okay. The Spokane Soccer Show is supported by Spokane City Credit Union. Are you a customer at a big, dumb bank? Well, stop it. At a bank, you're just a customer. At a credit union, you're a member and a shareholder. You can help make decisions about what the credit union does do or doesn't do. Banks just want to get bigger by swallowing up smaller banks one at a time until there's only one or two banks left. Nobody wants that. Well, except for big banks. Since 1934, Spokane City Credit Union has remained independent, relevant, and local, with a focus on the financial needs of individuals and families in Spokane City. Go to sccu.net, Spokane City Credit Union, serving Spokane one member at a time. Moving on. Alyssa Walker, 26-year-old, 5'10", just straight up center forward. Alyssa grew up in Centerville, Ohio. She ran track. She also played basketball in high school. Her amateur experience included the following. She played her ECNL club soccer for Ohio Premier SC. That team was ranked in the top 10 in the nation at one point. She then went to the University of Richmond in the Atlantic 10 Conference, where she logged 60 appearances, scored 19 goals, had 7 assists in 4,400 minutes. She was named Atlantic 10 All-Freshman and All-Conference Second Team as a junior. And then she transferred for her final year. You've heard this many times. This is just becoming like rinse and repeat. COVID eligibility for University of Iowa, where she made 20 appearances, scored another 9 goals and 2 assists in 1,400 minutes. That's a pretty good return rate. And made third team All Big Ten. And then she went pro. What happened when she went pro? And what do you think of this player from what you were able to find out, Abby?
I think maybe she loves Scandinavia because her professional career was placed there for the majority. So she started off in Sweden in the first division, Damallsvenskan with Kalmar. She had 9 goals in 23 games, which is impressive coming from a mid-table team, I would say. She then went on to play for SK Brann in Norway, very reputable club, for a short-term loan with Portland Thorns coming back home. And then I actually had the pleasure of playing against her in Denmark in 2023. She played for Hobikure, however you say that. Sorry, Danish friends. But she did play for them in the blue and black and had a really successful time there before coming to Zephyr.
Okay. I think her pronunciation might have been bang on because I did watch an interview because there's no film. Sorry, there's none. I can't find anything. Alyssa Walker. I found a bunch of other Alyssa Walkers. Unfortunately, Alyssa, your name is just common enough that a bunch of other soccer players have taken up residence on YouTube with their highlights. I couldn't find anything on our Alyssa Walker except for an interview that she did, which was really cool. It was a long interview too. And I think she attempted the pronunciation and it sounded very much like what you just said. So I think you're onto something there.
I had a friend that played with her at Kalmar and then obviously had the pleasure of playing against her. So I know a little bit more about her in real time. First things
This
first.
is why Abby Carchio is on this podcast. Well, there's many reasons, but that's one of them. Let's go. Stories about direct play with Alyssa Walker.
Yes, I am trying to pull my weight here on this podcast. But first things first, she wears a headband. So she's a girl after my own heart. I love that. So happy to see that. But in terms of her actual soccer playing abilities, she is incredibly good in the air. She has a very powerful shot, which I don't think we've really mentioned that much in this squad. And she has this experience in physical leagues, and I saw that firsthand. You know, she's not afraid to put in a tackle, and she can beat someone out in terms of her pace. She is, as we say again in Boston, wicked fast. And I think that combination is something that we haven't really seen yet in the roster.
Yeah, she's a taller player, so to see good in the air with a strong shot, fantastic. Bring it on. I did not get to see literally an ounce of her play. I tried. I looked, Alyssa. I'm just letting you know. I tried, everybody. Okay, well, for position and role, seems pretty obvious. This is a proper 9, as the English would say. What do you say, Abby?
Yes, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. This is a proper 9 for me. Would be shocked if I were to see her anywhere else on the pitch. Except in a dual 2 system, but no, definitely post up, but also can get in behind. Would love to see that strong shot.
With that height, the profile, what you've heard anecdotally or otherwise, yeah, I don't even see her as a second striker. She's just flat out the number 9. Okay, excellent. Let's move on. I hope I get this pronunciation right. Taryn Ries, 25-year-old, 5'8" winger. Taryn grew up in Vancouver, Washington. Her amateur experience includes the following. She was a 2-time 2A Washington State Player of the Year. She played her ECNL club soccer for FC Portland. She also attended the University of Portland, so she's a WCC rival of Gonzaga. Made 82 appearances there, scored 34 goals, had 9 assists in 6,700 minutes. Holy crap, that's a lot. Scored 15 goals and had 3 assists as a freaking sophomore? What? 3-time all WCC first team player. She must be familiar to many of our Gonzaga homies and is now playing with them, so that's kind of fun. Before you even talk about her professional experience, I just want to say this player is really exciting to me. What do you know about Taryn Ries's professional experience, and what did you think of her as a player, Abby?
Yeah, first off, you can tell she's a prolific goal scorer. In terms of her professional career, she played in Sweden in 2023 for the Damallsvenskan, a club called Uppsala, before going over to Germany playing for Duisburg. She scored 3 goals in 11 appearances. And I will say in that league, that is not an easy feat. Again, a team that struggles to score goals, and she was able to put 3 in, which is great. I also believe she played with Hailey Thomas at Duisburg, so could have some chemistry there. But overall, a pretty solid professional background, and excited to see what she does on domestic territory.
Anything else you saw about her play that you were able to pick up from watching film? Did you see any film on Taryn? What did you
fortunately,
think,
we do have a highlight tape here. Right off the bat, you can see that she can serve the ball proficiently with her left and right foot, which I believe will be essential to cut in with, especially if we are playing with those inverted wingers, getting those fullbacks nice and high. Or if you pin them on the outsides, she can still serve a ball very well. I think that's kind of the separating factor when you get into wingers for professional players. Can they serve a ball with finesse? And I mean that by, are you adept enough to either cut the ball back, find the back post, loop it in? There are so many different technical crosses. And from what I can see, she does have that in her locker. So,
Abby, you have been nailing these pronunciations, and it's awesome because I have no idea what any of these words mean, especially in these Scandinavian leagues. What do you know about the Swedish soccer system as far as women's football right now?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, to be honest. I think if you asked me 15 years ago, I would say incredibly reputable. When the league folded in America, most of those players, Marta included, and my former coach at Brown, Kim McNeil, all went over to Sweden to play their football. And so it was the league to play in 15 years ago, 10 years ago. Now, I think last 5-10 years, yeah, you have this dual system with the Elitan, which is the second division, and then the Damallsvenskan, both very reputable. In the last 5 years, I think there's been a large fight regarding equal pay, treatment of players, professionalism. And so perhaps you've seen a dip in high profile players going there, but consistently through the last ups and downs of those years, I think you do have a very physical league that likes to pay attention to the tactics defensively, which you see as a mirror essentially to the national team. So it's wishy-washy, but at the end of the day, if you're in either league, first or second, you're probably in a decent place for women's professional soccer.
Here's what I thought. I watched all of her film. This player jumped out of my screen. I was really, really impressed with what I saw. Like, probably my favorite attacking player that we've signed, as far as what I saw and what I felt is going to translate to basically anywhere. Just extremely athletic, very technical dribbler, not afraid of a step over that puts defenders on skates. Showed some finishing, obviously, in college, but really likes to work fullbacks to the end line, then square it or find a trailing attacker. She's an excellent crosser of the ball. She might be the best crosser from what I've seen in film. Has a very quick first move. I talk about this a lot on the podcast. Players that, especially wingers, when you have that kind of what I call a big first move that creates space, oh my God, she just cooks defenders from the film that I saw. Probably the best dribbler that I've seen as far as what I've seen on film. She is a handful. I also expect her to draw a lot of fouls. And yeah, so I really, really excited. And I actually found some stats on, I can't believe this. How on earth? Why? SofaScore has, it has the top 2 flights of Swedish women's football.
Wow.
I know. I was like, wait, what is this? This can't be right. It was like, is this a typo? If just to catch everybody up on why Abby and I are surprised, there just isn't a lot of good data. The website's out there, the equivalent of like a transfer market or something like it. If you know, you know, it just sucks. You can't find meaningful data. You can't find a lot of video. You can't find deep stats. You can't even find top level stats on a lot of women's soccer players. That shit has to change. But I did find some stuff from her time playing for Uppsala, and she had in 2023 she had 26 appearances, scored 5 goals, averaged 3.3 successful take-ons per game, and 2.8 interceptions per game. Like these are pretty gaudy numbers, and I think Uppsala were actually relegated, but you definitely can't say that was her fault. So they're back in the second division, but they were in the top flight when she played there. She played there 2 years, I believe. Let's talk position and role. Where do you see Taryn going, Abby?
I mean, with a crossing ability like she has, it would be a shame not to have her out on the wing. My biggest question mark is obviously if you're not on the wing side that is doing the crossing, you are on the wing side that is doing the finishing. And so I would love to see her on the finishing ends of things. Obviously in her collegiate career, that wasn't a problem, but very curious how that chalks down. I do think she'll be playing on the wing.
What Abby's trying to say is she would like Taryn to be cloned so that she can cross the ball from the left to the right, the old 11-7 play, as they call it in the business, or 7-11, whichever direction. She's got to have the left wing role nailed. I think every appearance, according to SofaScore and according to everything I saw, she was on the left and very comfortable there. She's a 2-footed player, but she very much loved to work fullbacks. And I just think if the opposing team doesn't have a quick and capable defender at right back, she's going to feast. So be very interested to see how she does. And I'm pretty bullish on that player. Okay, let's move along. I'm going to get this pronunciation correct because I made sure I DM'd this player to not screw this up. Taryn Ries, 24-year-old, 5'8" forward, grew up in Curitiba, southwest of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Thais's amateur experience included winning 5 youth championships with her hometown club, Curitiba, a.k.a. Coxa. She made 5 appearances for Brazil's under-17 and under-20 outfits. She then played college soccer in the United States for University of North Florida, made 77 appearances, bagged 42 goals and 18 assists in 5,800 minutes, was named Atlantic Sun Freshman of the Year and Atlantic Sun Conference Player of the Year as a senior, and was a 4-time All-Atlantic Sun first team player. And she does have some professional experience. Tell me what that is, Abby.
Yes, she joined some other Brazilians in Orlando Pride 2022. She did get a few games, which is not an easy squad to crack into, before going over to Spain to play for Villarreal in 2024, where she scored 1 goal in 11 games. But I want to mention here, scoring in that league when you have the likes of Real Madrid and Barcelona to play against is very rare. So the fact that she even scored 1 goal is pretty notable. But overall, super, super exciting player for me.
It's such a good point. I mean, that level of competition, we've been talking about this repeatedly with these players of like, what are they going to do when they take that jump? And it's impressive to even make a starting squad and to get some appearances for either Orlando Pride in 2022 or in Villarreal. Tell me what you saw in the film that you watched of Thais.
Yes, I know you have mentioned before with a few players that they potentially could be on set pieces, but for me, she's a true set piece specialist. So I'm curious who's going to be taking those. Potentially, she just takes it on the right side. For me, she's a true out and out false nine, likes the ball at her feet. She's going to sit in that pocket all day. I also saw from her film that I'll go out on a limb here and say I think she has the best distribution on the team. So it totally makes sense for me. And I'm jumping ahead here that she sits in that false nine position.
Okay, interesting. Yeah, I saw the same set piece delivery. I'm sure we watched some of the same film. Her Orlando Pride games. I did find her North Florida video, and in the set piece thing, it's like I had a note that she'll probably be competing with Amina Ekic. They're both left-footed. Feels like one of those things where flip a coin if you're going to go for goal and try to, which doesn't happen as much. I brought this up on the podcast. The metrics aren't there. The analytics suggest that going direct for goal on free kicks it's becoming a lost art. There aren't that many players other than the James Ward-Prowses of the world. Sorry for the stupid English Premier League references all the time. But if delivery is required, then I think you're right. I think Thais will be, if they're looking for service, it'll be Thais. If they're looking to go for goal, it'll be Amina Ekic. But yeah, I think she's going to try to beat you, Thais, that is, with her passing. I don't think her prolific scoring as a college player is going to translate to her play as a professional. Didn't jump out in the stuff that I saw of her playing for Pride. Not really a classic Jogo Benito flair player either. Like I saw a pretty focused and a player that like concentrates on what she's doing to build up play. Her North Florida film looked like it was shot on like an 8mm, video, like 8mm film against really poor opponents. So I can't really look at any of that stuff and take it too seriously. Sorry. Yeah. Anyway, position and role. You've kind of given me a preview of what you think is going to happen there. You think she's going to be false nine, maybe a 10?
Yeah, I think something to note here, she is, and you can see in her film, she's very simple, especially coming from the Brazilian culture, doesn't have that necessary flair, but what that does and what her distribution does, rather than traveling with the ball, is it actually creates a lot of space for other players to take up. And it also increases the speed of play, which I think oftentimes slows down when you get into the final third. So I think it's going to bode well. I do think she's going to sit in that 9 or 10 pocket. For me, she's a false 9. Open up that space, invert the wingers, you get your outside backs high. That's what I would do, almost create a front 5. But again, that's not my job just yet.
Oh, we're going to find out. Oh my god, that's coming. You just wait. She's listed as a forward too. So I see her drifting into the 10 slot often in the film that I've seen. Kind of like a Eden Hazard type, strong, compact, not especially quick, but she's got this ability using her strength, and she's compact to shield the ball, protect it when carrying it forward into attack. She's going to draw some fouls, like flat out. And I'm going to make another stupid basketball comparison, but it's like a player like a point guard who can just put you on their hip, and they're just so strong that you're not going to be able to get the ball off of them. I mean, she's got that type of frame and strength. So if she's doesn't even have to be like a technical dribbler or a flair player, I do not think she will be a classic Brazilian type of player that way. So, but I like you. I expect her to be very effective wherever she lines up for Joe Johnson and Zephyr FC. This episode of the Spokane Soccer Show is brought to you by Feast World Kitchen. If you know, you know. If you don't know, I'm about to tell you. Think authentic, mouth-watering cuisine from all over the world delivered to your mouth right here in downtown Spokane. Here's the part you might not have known. Feast is a nonprofit that effectively creates chef entrepreneurs by offering a bunch of programs where immigrants and former refugees learn career skills, earn income from their food sales, and build connections in the community. Quick sidebar, I still have daydreams about the beef sambusas and the spicy jollof rice that we had during the AFCON watch party in January. But don't take my word for it. Head down to Feast World Kitchen on 3rd Avenue, follow them on Instagram, or go to their website at feastworldkitchen.org. Abby Carchio, it's your favorite topic, goalkeepers. Let's get started. Here we go. Izzy Nino, 24-year-old, 6'1" goalkeeper. She grew up in Northville, Michigan. She played volleyball in high school as well. And her amateur experience, it included, tell me if you've heard this before. She played ECNL club soccer for this team called the Michigan Hawks. And they won the under-17 national championship in 2016. Oh, that's right. Because she was teammates with Riley Tanner and Sarah Clark. We've already learned that. Went to University of Michigan. And I don't know what happened to her as a college soccer player, but she did not play as a freshman and as a senior. She played as a sophomore, as a junior, and a junior. She had 29 appearances and had I know what this number means, but I don't know what it means in like college women's soccer. She had a 68% save percentage. So, okay, here we go. Abby, tell me about her professional experience. Izzy Nino, what do you know about her as a professional player thus far?
What I do know is that she makes up for any lack of game time in her collegiate career, in her professional career. So she played in 2023 for the Newcastle Jets over in the A-League, and she actually ticked up her save percentage with a 70% save percentage for shots on goal in 22 games. Very important to me that a goalkeeper gets game time. So those 22 games, excellent. And now I want to bring something up, Benji, because she is known for more than just her save percentage. She is known for a particular red card that happened in the A-League.
She is. It's true.
It's outrageously awesome. I love to see this. And perhaps if you've listened to Meg, you know that I have also been in heated, situations where things just like hands fly. And
whoa. Okay, no, I don't know. I haven't heard this episode, and you're gonna have to fill in our listener as well. Tell me what you did. What sin did you commit, Abby, as a soccer player?
I may or may not have almost struck a girl. It looked like I punched her, but I assure you that I pulled back at the last second. But optically, it did look like I punched her. I didn't get a red card. I should have gotten a red card. And
did you get a retroactive ban?
No, but they were challenging for it, but I didn't. Luckily, I had some good referees in my corner that I had played in front of for years and years. But so I understand what
this is in college.
This is in college. I'm not going to tell you what game. There is a video out there.
I gotta find it.
But it's not as famous as Izzy's footage because it went viral on TikTok, which for me is excellent exposure to the women's game. This happens all the time in the men's game. And when it happens in the women's game, it's blown up. But for me, it just shows the heart, the fire, the loyalty of a teammate for someone to step in and to create some chaos, let's just say.
Okay. For my listeners, like me, at least half of Abby's family is of Italian descent. They are from Massachusetts. The blood gets a little hotter for a certain type of person. Very familiar to me, but that's funny to know that. Wait, was this for Brown?
This was for Brown, yes.
Okay, I'm going to have to ask Sydney for notes on this. What happened here? I completely agree with your interpretation of this, and you're right. It's obviously famous because when you go to Google Izzy Nino and find out what type of soccer player she is, the very first thing that appears when Google wants to give you some content to look at is red card. And in this video, feel free to watch it. I share your perspective completely on this, Abby. The opposing team, one of Izzy's teammates is, on the ground and struggling in some capacity, and an opposing team player tries to drag her up off of the ground. And, the keeper, Izzy, is nearby and is having none of that shit. And I will tell you that the opposing team's player that tried to lift her teammate, Izzy's teammate, off the ground was being an asshole. And Izzy definitely didn't punch this player. I think she was actually doing the classic, like trying to grab her around the collar and that kind of thing. But it definitely looked a little, it was a little above, it was definitely above the collar though.
It's because she's tall. It's just she has
yeah,
a different
exactly.
angle.
Bro,
That's why.
she's 6'1". She can't help that she's got to reach,
Right.
Hey. So anyway, I totally agree with you on that. What did you see about her in the film? Let's talk about her as a goalkeeper. Yeah, sorry, Izzy, we had to talk about it. It's just a thing. Anybody who ever goes and Googles you is going to see that. So we stand for Izzy Nino on this podcast.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So luckily we do have some film and we can talk about her technical abilities. Caveat again, we are not experts on goalkeeping. I know very little. I trained like a 10-year-old to be a goalkeeper. I did not do a great job. But I've picked up a few things, a few like buzzwords to say. She has great.
Go on. I can't wait for this.
Yeah, I mean, she does have great reaction times, shot stopper for me, quick off her line. I think I'm curious how she plays with her feet. I would like to see more of that because I do think a goalkeeper that plays with her feet is going to be essential for this lineup. But aside from that, I think she has the size necessary to fend off those set pieces. Mixture with potentially Sydney Cummings at 5'10". I think that's going to bode well inside the 6-yard box.
Yeah, that back line's going to have some height. 6'1" shot stopper is the very first note I took. And I did watch a lot of her film as a Michigan player, and I was pretty impressed. I mean, you can see on display the athleticism of a multi-sport athlete. I did see one hockey save. So that's not the same as playing the ball at your feet in terms of building out of the back. I realize that, but she looks like she's got all the saves that you would want. Length and athleticism alone should help her make like the most comfortable saves and the ones that you'd expect a keeper to make. I have no idea, no evidence on display in her college film of what she looks like coming off her line or how she communicates with her back line, but the way she defended her teammate, I'm going to say it again, like she cares about her teammates and no one will ever doubt that again. Role, I mean, that's she's going to be a goalkeeper, I think.
I think she might play the 7, potentially. Maybe. Okay. Who knows? Yeah. It would be very daunting to see a 6'1" 7 flying down you.
Yeah, let's throw Izzy out on the right. We'll put Sydney Cummings out on the left, and we'll just roll the dice.
I love that little. Yeah. I love it. No, she's. I would assume she's going to play goalkeeper.
I think this is going to, for fans of the podcast and fans of Spokane Velocity FC, this is going to feel pretty analogous. We're going to talk about her counterpart in goal next, but I expect, if Izzy's not the number one, I just expect her to be the kind of shot stopper, very comfortable on her line, a.k.a. Carlos Marancio for Spokane Velocity FC. That's what we have for Izzy Nino. Let's talk about that counterpart. Hailey Coll, 23-year-old, 5'7" goalkeeper. Hailey grew up in Eugene, Oregon. She played with the under-17 U.S. Youth National Team setup for a stretch. She was rostered as an amateur for the 2019 preseason with Portland Thorns. She played her college soccer for Oregon State in her home state and made 40 appearances with a 74% save percentage. And yeah, that's what I have on young Hailey Coll as a goalkeeper. Abby, do you know anything about Hailey?
I do know a little bit. I will say something to touch on regarding save percentage. It can be
unfair, right?
It can be like super unfair. It depends on the front four or the back four in front of you. Really, it leads down to that. But
depends on the coach's tactical setup. It's like
100%. It depends on a lot of things, the opposition you're facing, things like that. But it doesn't hurt to have a 74% on that statistic. In terms of her professional experience, very minimal. Was it with the Reign in preseason? Aside from that, this would be her first bulk of professional soccer.
I literally don't have any content for Hailey Coll. So, Hailey, we look forward to watching you. If I had to read between the lines because of the professional experience, I suspect it'll be Izzy as the starter. But what do you think, Abby?
I really think two things. One, it comes down to who is a better goalkeeper with their feet. I also am curious because Very rarely do I see a professional roster with 2 goalkeepers. There's usually 3. And so a late signing, perhaps? I have no idea. But
I think it's a very USL thing, although your results may vary on that. Spokane Velocity have rolled with 2 keepers for quite a while.
I just it's a dangerous game.
It's scary. I agree. Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yep. Okay, I have to push on something you just said there because I'm really curious. Give me your take. I agree with you, but I want to hear you explain it. Why is it more important with how a goalkeeper plays with the ball at their feet than even being a shot stopper in your view?
I think it's this new trend in the modern game, and I think it's so essential, especially when you start playing higher up the pitch, that the goalkeeper. Essentially, there are a lot of different factors, but in my mind, when the center back rotates into the midfield, you almost need another filler to play that center back role, and that is the goalkeeper. In the modern game, the build out, especially Pep Guardiola's style, the goalkeeper is essentially a defender, and therefore, if you can't play with your feet, you can't build out. If you can't build out, you can't play a certain way in the middle third of the pitch, which then affects the final third. So really, everything starts with a goalkeeper. I don't say that it needs to be at the disposal or the sacrifice of being a good shot stopper. I mean, at the end of the day, you can use your hands. That's your role. But I do think that it could be a deciding factor on who gets the starting role.
Yeah, if you're cutting up a pie chart of capabilities of a goalkeeper, you're just going to give a little bit more privilege and a little bit more of that pie to the ability to play with the ball at your feet. I totally agree. I mean, I think that we've seen this happen quite a bit with Velocity's early play, that it's not just the ability to play with the ball at your feet. It's how comfortable you are leaving your line and doing that. There's 2 components to that. One is like, do you have the wherewithal? Do you read the game well enough to be like, now is the time I come off my line? Or I don't come off my line and I'm barking at my center back or my fullback, right? So it's just, that is the more critical component of modern goalkeeping, flat out. I mean, very few teams are set up to like Burnley FC,
right,
Sean Dyche era of, we've got, I can't remember the guy who preceded Nick Pope, but Tom Heaton, I think was his name. But it was just like, basically, they're going to cut off all the angles and they're going to let their excellent, outstanding shot-stopping goalkeeper clean up everything. So that doesn't happen. There's no one who plays like that anymore.
No, and I guess the higher level soccer theory is that if you have the ball at your feet, the other team doesn't have the ball. Like, you're in possession, and therefore you're not going to need to save as many shots. So that's like a higher level theory that I don't know how well it comes into play statistically, but that's the idea. Like, I'd rather be in possession of the ball. It's essentially another player on the pitch. So
that is it. We did it.
Whip through that.
That is all 14 of the midfielders and defenders who've been signed so far for Zephyr FC. That's all 6 of the goalkeepers, 6 of the forwards, and it's all both goalkeepers. That's 22 players. We did it. I'm going to have it. It's official. I'm having an interview with Joe Johnson. I'm calling it a conversation. It's not going to be an interview. I'm going to chat with Joe. We got to get to know each other and just hang out a little bit, talk a little soccer, get her soccer journey story. And then the next time you and I chat, I think it'll be fun to put together our hypothetical first 11. We've seen all the film. I didn't have this advantage when we did the preview of Velocity FC. I think I did 16 players, and there were so many holes in that team that I was kind of like, this is literally flinging shit at walls. Whereas this team, we got 22 players. We could make 2 starting 11s with those players. So we get to play around.
We do. I want some like scrimmage footage or something, just so that I can base off of. We're going to be pulling from straws a little bit. I'm so excited for your conversation with Joe. Obviously, she is a female coach in the game, playing at the highest or coaching at the highest level, which is someone that I obviously would look up to. So I'm going to be a consumer of that content. Can't wait for that. And hopefully she gives us a little bit of tea that we can use to make our starting 11.
And then, I think from there, we'll just start previewing a little bit of the first slate of fixtures for the Super League, including Spokane Zephyr FC hosting Fort Lauderdale. I believe they're called Fort Lauderdale United, August 17th at One Stadium. So that's the content that's on the horizon. Can't wait to share that with you. There's going to be several more episodes of this Super League Soccer Show Takeover. And until then, thank you all for listening. Thank you, Abby Carchio. Thank you to all of our sponsors for supporting this endeavor. And until next time, yeah, thanks for listening.
Absolutely a blast, as always.